Okay, so this is part three where we had been dating for a few weeks. I had too much to drink and I told him he had to marry me. um, I had been on this journey of breaking up with the ex-boyfriend. It had been a few years. Like I was really felt like I was in a good place. I met my now husband. Like I was saying in the last video, after our first date, I was like, this guy's not marriage material. Like he'll be a good friend to have around town. And our second date, I had total butterflies. Like I couldn't decide what I wanted to wear. He had invited me to a pun competition, which I was like, he knows what a pun is and he likes puns. OMG. We had a blast. And so I forgot, because this is very on brand for me, I forgot that I was going to Canada. I lived in North Carolina at the time, but I had to go to Canada for work. And also that coincided with an Indigo Girls concert that I was going to with some of my girlfriends who happen to be lesbians. It's very important in the story. And so I was like, he'd asked me on I think maybe we've been out 3 times. And I was like, I'm going to be out of town for like a week. Can we pick up where we left off when I get back? And he's like, absolutely. And so I did not realize that my trip to Canada coincided with the Indigo Girls tickets, and our friend that had bought them, everyone else backed out. And I was like, I am so sorry. And I was like, I'm going to find somebody. She also didn't drive. So I was like, I'm going to find somebody to take you. And so I put it on Facebook, hoping that he is as sweet as I think he is and will say yes. And sure enough, 10 minutes later, he's like, yeah, totally. I'll go pick you up. We'll go to Indigo Girls. And, turns out that, he of course had an ulterior motive, because he was like, I want to go hang out with one of her friends and ask what is wrong with her, because she seems amazing and nobody's snatched her up yet. And turns out, my good friend Andy, she said, well, she's just really picky, and so you should feel really special. And that is true. But I had been asking his friends the same thing. Like, what's going on? Like, he's amazing. And so I got back, things are really great. Like those kind of couple of days after I returned from Canada, like we really got close. And in that time, remember, I had a lot of trauma from, growing up and then being with this guy for 10 years. It was just not a healthy relationship. And one of the things in that relationship was that he would dangle the marriage carrot whenever it felt convenient. And thank goodness we did not get married ever. But it had been this kind of back and forth, and he would kind of pull it out when he felt like I was pulling away. And so, my now husband and I are having this kind of come to Jesus talk of like, look, we are both in our mid-30s. What do we want? And, he said, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I was like, well, I want to be married and I want to have a kid. I'm going to be totally honest with you. And, he said, well, I've got some health issues. I don't know what's going to happen. And in that moment, I was like, I understand that. But if I do not stay with you, you're going to be the one that got away. And I maintain that to this day. It's been 10 years. So that weekend, Andy again, she was hanging out with us. And the important part about her being a lesbian too is like I wanted to know that my potential boyfriend, potential partner was okay with me having gay friends, because it's not really something you necessarily ask on a first date. I was like, he seems pretty cool, but like I can't be dating a bigot. So obviously things went great. She actually married us. She was our officiant at our wedding. And so everybody has that friend like Andy who, just gets you in trouble. And so this evening was no different. And we were drinking, and she and another friend of ours started picking on me that we were going to get married, that my now husband and I were going to get married. And we'd been only dating for a couple of weeks. And, I had all of this other baggage that I was bringing into the situation. And so I did have the wherewithal to go and stand out on the back porch and just kind of have a moment, because I got really emotional over it. I'm a very emotional person. And bless his heart, he came out and asked me what was wrong. And I just emotionally vomited on him and was like, you're going to marry me. And when you ask me, it's going to have to be spectacular and I'm going to have all your babies. I mean, it just the whole thing. And I woke up the next morning and he's like, hey, I'm like, hey, do you remember what you said last night? And I was like, mm-mm. And then like the lights came on and I was like, oh no, I did not say that. Thank you for not kicking me out of your house. Like, I am so sorry. Forget that happened. And he's like, oh, no. That's going to happen. And it is going to be spectacular. And so I'm going to leave in the comments to this a link to the video that was taken at our engagement. It was really spectacular and very thoughtful and very sweet. And nothing that I would have ever planned or done on my own, but he's just a great dude. And so, you know, I want to end this with, we've been married for 10 years. In a few days is our 10-year anniversary. And, you know, marriage is not easy. Partnerships, long-term relationships with anybody are not easy, but it is incredible to have somebody who has my back and who I have that emotional intimacy with, who respects my boundaries, who has their own good boundaries that I know to respect, that is helping me raise a child who has good boundaries. And, you know, bringing that back to the Clarity Catalyst work, because like I said, I took this course as a student and was like, I need to teach this to other people because this stuff does work. You know, there's 1 week where we talk about our relationship with requirements. And so, you know, it's great if you're single and you're like trying to figure out, you know, what you want in a partner. But even if you're in a long-term intimate relationship with somebody, or you have, you know, friendships that you're trying to work out, going through this exercise that we do in this week is really amazing to help you step back and say, you know, am I getting what I need? And also, you know, from the work that you're doing prior to that in the course, am I showing up the way I need to? We talk about mindfulness and being present. And, you know, one of the things we talk about in the course is, you know, peace lives in the present. When we're in the present, we're not thinking about the past. We're not thinking about the future. And, you know, when I was trying to suss out whether if he was the right one, I was very present in the moment. I was trying to let go of any hurt and any baggage I had from that previous relationship and letting my husband show up as himself and not project anything onto that. And really, you know, we always talk about, you know, people are showing you who they are, believe them. And I wanted to let him show up as himself. I did not have these words for it at the time, but in retrospect, like that is what I was doing. And I was trying, you know, not to get caught up in like what I meant, what something might mean, or, you know, project my own meaning onto his actions or thoughts. And I was very open and communicative with him, and he was with me. But I was able to do that because he would meet me halfway. And he was very open about wanting that communication. And I deeply appreciate that. And he is still that kind of person. And, you know, honoring that intuition. You know, we talk in the Clarity Catalyst a whole week about tapping into that, because the universe is telling us, right? Our gut is telling us, like, we know what is right for us at all times, but we tend to deny it if we haven't had the opportunity to honor it. I mean, it's because it's a skill. I mean, it's a muscle that we have to practice. And once you practice it gets a lot easier. And, you know, knowing my relationship requirements and knowing what I needed from him, and, you know, what my expectations were for him and for myself in this new partnership. And I will say, you know, the first few years we were married, we were together. So we got married very quickly. We were only together for about a year. But when, you know, we first moved in together, like, I realized I still had a lot of stuff to work through, that he was not my ex-boyfriend. He was not going to be that person. And I needed to let him show up the way he needed to. And that is one of the things that we talk a lot about in Clarity Catalyst too, like, not just you but also those around you, and letting go of that expectation of how somebody might show up in a relationship and letting them show up differently. Because if I had put my expectations of what I thought relationships were, what my ex had done, like all of those things, I would have ruined it. And I realized very quickly I didn't need to do that. And I didn't want to do that because it would have been self-sabotage. But had I not done all that work before, it wouldn't have worked out. And I think back to a conversation I had with my sister years ago. She's a little bit older than me. She got married way before I did. And she had done a lot of work on herself before she met her husband. And I remember her saying to me, when we were talking, and she said, if I had not done that work on myself, he wouldn't have married me. And it stuck with me because I knew that was true. Like, I knew in that moment I needed to work on myself if I ever wanted to find what she has with her husband. And if I had not done this work, he would not have ever wanted to be with me. He would not have wanted to date me. I wouldn't have wanted to date me. And then this last part I want to bring back in is the negative self-talk. Like I said, in the second week, we talk a lot about identifying those personas for ourselves. There's little gremlins that live in our head that are ultimately trying to help us, but again, a lot of times lead to self-sabotage if we're letting them drive the bus for us. And so if I had not done all of those things for myself, I would not be recording this video. I would not be married to the amazing man that I'm married to. I would not have my child. I would not have the job that I have. And it's all because about 12, 15 years ago, I made a decision to break up with a guy and better myself. And so I hope you've enjoyed my story time. And, check out the comments. I've got links. I've got, lots of fun stuff in there. And I would love if you would come join me for the Clarity Catalyst if this resonates with you. And please, too, if you have questions, just send me an email, go pop on my website. I've got my little Facebook chat box up there, and let's talk. All right. Thank you.